Okay, Ron, here we go on our.
Get out of the way, you hippie.
Right, yeah, it's cheaper than the station wagon. So, our septic shock road trip continues, and we've picked up a couple of dodgy hitchhikers on our way through Connecticut. And down in the left-hand corner of the screen there, it might be different, but my end is an old friend of the show. Well, not specifically the show, but our other show, Geno Cuddy. Hello, Geno.
Hello there, Clive, and Mr. Well, I'll just say Clive for now.
Okay. Well, there's Ron up there as well. You know,
I didn't know if Ron had already introduced himself. Hello there, Clive and Ron.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for
I don't think I
picking me
did,
up.
but yes, I am Ron. Yeah, that's thanks.
So,
Hi,
as you can see, Erik, we're really smooth at this. So
I'm gonna fit right in.
You're probably intimidated by our hardcore
I'm
professionalism.
a little nervous here.
So yeah, down there is Mr. Erik Brown, and Erik is also a former resident of the Science City of Tokyo. But yeah, you are Connecticut born and bred, right?
Connecticut born and bred, yes, sir.
As are you also, Geno. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. So we've got a couple of guides who can point me and Ron in the right direction, show us around, and where we can score drugs.
He did all the local stops, local places and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Town
So
and
can
Country
you,
Pizza, here we come.
So can you guys sum up what's Connecticut like for you? Well, can you put it Connecticut in use 3 adjectives to describe Connecticut for me?
Diverse, expensive, and come back to me on a third one. I mean, in general, it's not bad. It's just it changed a lot. It changed a lot since I was a kid.
Okay.
Some good, some bad, but it's, it is what it is. Maybe I'm old fashioned. I don't know. I don't like things changing so quickly, But
you and Geno get right on. How about you, Geno? Do these run true to you? Diverse and expensive?
Yeah, but I have something else to add to that. Culturally vapid.
You guys have really sold me on this state. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, it's like
to any other residents of Connecticut listening.
Well, the thing is, we're stuck between New York and Boston, so it's like when people in the United States anyways think Connecticut, like everybody's rich, like, oh, you must be rich. No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Take a drive through Middletown. Yeah, no.
So you can drive through New Britain.
Right.
I'm getting the sense, is it kind of like if you're born there, that's one thing, but then on the other hand, it's a bit of a playground for the rich of nearby.
Like, why would you move here?
It's people, I guess, from here we can joke around, but it's like any place where you're from, you're like, I got out of there for a reason, but it's
right. No, I get it.
Yeah, it's in general, it's not bad. It's just if you stay away from the politics and whatever, which is difficult as we get older, but it's like, yeah, there's plenty to do. There's great restaurants, places to go.
Yeah.
You got, you want to go to the beach, you can go to the beach. You want to go skiing, you can go skiing. You want to go, there's plenty to do. It's just
antiquing, flea marketing.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Primary activities of this household.
Got the Four Seasons
restaurants,
and, whatever. But sometimes you're just looking for, like, we're, I can't argue here. We pretty much are into film, whatever level of film that you're into, or creativity or arts, or even doing something like this. It's just difficult to find for me anyways, to find a group that has similar interests. Even my friends here, like, we're so opposite. Like, nobody's into, hey, let's make a movie, or hey, let's so I think my issue is finding my finding my tribe, if you will. It's just, it's difficult here. I don't know what it is. Everybody's into different things as far as IT or what's Connecticut, like insurance, a lot of corporate things like that. And it's like, I have zero interest in, you know, insurances or financing or, you know, those big businesses that are, that you can find, like everybody you talk to, they're doing
Right.
something like that. And it's like, I want to get more into the arts. They're there. Just, you got to go digging. They're not,
Right.
my neighbor's not doing it where I can just say, hey, let's throw this together. So
Is it all
You know,
quite
I
spread
can,
as well?
sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just asking, is it maybe all kind of spread out as well, rather than?
Yeah, because, you know, from what I find, you know, just directly from where I am here in Middletown, I find that, you know, I completely identify with what Erik is saying there, because, you know, I have such an interest in older film, in like films from the silent era, the 30s and the 40s. That's my particular area of interest. But what I find is that there's really nobody around here who shares those similar interests. I mean, what's funny is I'm not too far from the Wesleyan University, which of course has a big film program. But, you know, aside from that, there's really no interest in exploration of this topic, and so that's why, I mean, probably the closest film friend that I have to discuss this material with is in Massachusetts. I mean, Connecticut is populated by what I like to call normies, people who are only into what's mainstream and only into what's being regurgitated by the mainstream. You know, if it's something independently done or something that isn't popular, people in Connecticut aren't likely to jump on that train.
right.
Which is very unfortunate, because, you know, as far as our area of interest, film is concerned, there's a lot to really explore and just research and look into. And unfortunately, it seems like people in this area don't really care for that. And it's kind of ironic, considering that we're just only a state over from New York, which I think is one of the biggest cultural meccas of the entire United States, I would think, with Radio City and all the music halls and Broadway and everything else. But Connecticut, once you cross over that threshold, artistically, the well dries up.
Well, that's just, I think we're too close to New York or Boston. That's where, you know,
You're in the shadow.
yeah, basically. I mean, I'm sure it's there. They're there. Like, I'm meeting people as, you know, as I go in Connecticut, where they're making movies. And going back to that, you know, mentioning about the vampire movie that'll be released soon.
Oh yeah, you should plug that while you're here.
Oh, plugging it. The Last American Vampire, put out from, it'll be released soon, I should say. And it, I learned something, like the first recorded vampire in United States history took place in Jewett City. Did you know that, Geno?
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
As far as filmic, I don't think so, but
No, in
like,
real life history, there was a documented case of or vampire something.
vampirism.
Vampirism, or I don't know if it's vampirism, but the documented case of a vampire, you know, back at the, you gotta do the
New England, that's another weird thing about New England, just specifically, is our history with black magic and the occult.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you know, we're only also a state away from Massachusetts, and of course, Massachusetts is where they had the infamous Salem witch trials. So it's really interesting, just this area of the world where it seems like all that Gothic, you know, all those Gothic incidents occurred.
Well, we had the Warrens, remember that, and a lot of the hauntings that are happening around here.
And of course, there's also the film entitled "The Haunting in Connecticut."
Yes, and that house, I think I could be wrong, was in Southington, Connecticut, and I like weekly drive by it, and believe it or, you know, people believe it or they don't believe it, but the house is still there, and there's people living in it, and I haven't heard anything negative coming from.
I have a friend who lives in Southington. I ought to ask him about it.
Yeah, it's right on 322, Route 322 going. I think
Yeah.
it's 322 going in.
Yeah.
House is still there. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
the house. You drive by,
Yeah.
that's the one that they're talking about.
Just in case as well, the playback for the people watching this, we are being stalked all around us are the beast creatures as well. So that occasional
Shut up, Clive. Just shut up
that
about that. Like, just let's save that. Okay, so until we get to that, because
No,
I
I'm
have
just
a whole
saying-
lot to say about that.
because sometimes you'll hear a noise, right? So that's what it is us trying to kind of keep quiet because
I mean, they're here. Oh, great.
they jump out of the trees. They're dangerous.
I think I got one.
Yeah, so there we go. Setting the scene. Doesn't Connecticut sound great, Ron?
Yeah, I can't wait to go there.
I'm not going to say. Well, I know that we're joking about it and making it out to be some sort of desolate wasteland. I mean, in many areas it is, but there's also a lot of rich history here, and there's also a lot of good here. I mean, one of my favorite places to visit is the Witch's Dungeon Classic Movie Museum in Plainville, Connecticut, headed by Cortland Hull, who is, I believe, a descendant of the actor Henry Hull, who was, of course, in the first werewolf film, which was Werewolf of London, with my favorite actor Warner Oland, who actually grew up for a short time in New Britain, Connecticut. So there is some rich cultural history here.
Yeah, I think it's not to be and sound negative. It's just I think we have these minds where we're not like superficial, like, oh, it's in my face, I like it, but we like to dig deep on certain topics and interests where they're here. You just got to find them. So I guess like that complaining probably falls back on us. Like, well, you just got to get off your ass and get out there and find it. It's like anywhere else.
But I don't want people. But the stereotype with Connecticut is that it's all rich and ritzy and upper echelon, and I'm like,
but it's not.
No. Everywhere you go in Connecticut, it doesn't look like Angela Bauer's house on Who's the Boss. Okay, there are some areas that you should avoid. Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven.
Was that set in Connecticut? Who's the boss? Was that set in Connecticut?
That was a sitcom back in the 80s.
No, I remember it because we remade it in the UK.
Okay.
It was called The Upper Hand here.
The Upper Hand.
Yeah.
I actually like that better.
Because if it was a single mother, 2 kids, and like a handsome dude comes in and lives with them.
No, it was a single mother, son, and her rather flirtatious older mother, and then
it was 2 kids. Don't forget Alyssa Milano.
That was Tony's kid, though. That wasn't her kid.
Yeah. I guess you could say that now. Yeah. But yeah, 2 kids. Yeah. So.
But
I always thought that the title of that show was terrible because she was the boss. I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
It was her. So I Mr. Salt. Finish.
Yes, we should also point out as well. I didn't warn him I was going to do this. So I don't know if he's going to be embarrassed by it or not. But of course, Erik is a celebrity in his own right in a certain kind of community. Some people know who you are because you're a kind of surrogate Kurt Russell, right?
Oh, that's right. Yes. If you want me to.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I provided the motion capture for the character Snake in the video game Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes and Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain. I'm the guy. And then I was called back to work with Hideo Kojima to work in his new company as the protagonist in Death Stranding. And people know that game as with Norman Reedus's image. Well, I provided his motion capture for the Tokyo unit. And it was quite the experience. So
there we go. Some of you out there may have played Erik.
Yeah.
Played
with me.
Did you hear that, Erik? You got played.
I did.
Did you meet Norman Reedus at all, or did you have to study his body language or something?
I studied his body language. It wasn't required, but I'm like, if I'm gonna move like him, I should make it look like it's him. I never met him because conflicting scheduling. As a matter of fact, they had me last summer, right before COVID broke out, go to the UK to do their, the PlayStation 5. See, I'm way out of the loop. the commercial for the video game for Death Stranding, and Norman Reedus couldn't do it, so they flew me out to the UK, and it was awesome because another small world, Geno, another small world. I get out there and I meet the she was part of the staff. It was some countryside in some motion capture studio in the countryside near Oxford. Anyways, make a long story longer. She looks at me, she's like, okay, what part of Connecticut are you from? I'm looking at her like, how the hell do you know that? She goes, well, your phone number is an 860 number. I'm like, oh, I'm from New Britain. And she's looking at me, she says, I'm from New Britain. I'm like, what's up with New Britain? So here we are in Old Britain with two people from New Britain, and everybody's looking at us because it was the French team with the unit image, and then of course the staff for the motion capture studio, and then us Americans, and everybody's looking around like, wow, how do they know each other? Just meeting in this, like, we're literally in the middle of nowhere. It was quite interesting. She's like, I'm getting married in 2020 at the Crystal Ballroom, which is in New Britain.
Yep,
like, okay,
yep,
maybe,
I know where that is. That's
yeah.
near where the old St. John Paul school was, right? The Pope John Paul school.
I don't know, but I know I think it's St. Mary's. I could be wrong. Holy Cross.
Well, now it's called
Holy
Chamberlain
Cross.
School.
Okay, but either way, it's like,
Yeah.
that was, her wedding was supposed to take place in August of 2020, and I'm wondering if it ever did, because I never, due to the COVID and stuff like that, or whatever, because we were talking a year from then, back then. So small world. So
when you originally auditioned for Metal Gear Solid, did they actually say to you, we want you to be like Kurt Russell, or was that more of a conceptual image thing?
No, that was a conceptual image, because they also wanted, Michael Bihn's character was involved back in the day when they were coming up with the image. But I'm not a gamer, so I didn't know too much about how they developed any of that. But when we did the audition, it was funny because it was like a sea of kind of built guys, karate black belts and stuff like that, and we're sitting in one big room. You know how it is.
I wasn't at that audition, believe it or not.
I thought I saw you. There was somebody back there. I thought it was you. So the little assistant director comes in right before the audition, and she's looking in the room with all these guys, and then she's like, okay, in Japanese, she says, who here was in the military? And I raised my hand because I'm prior military, like just naturally, but I was the only one, out of all these guys from Russia and China and Romania or whoever. I'm like, she goes, okay, you're first. And I was like, oh my God. So, and I still had no idea what the part was or what was going on. They just told, they just tell you video game. So when you go in, you're in this big room and everybody's watching you, and it's like, they got an interpreter. They got a guy from the French Foreign Legion there, and like all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay. So they give you a weapon, you go through these scenarios. There's like 11 different scenarios, how to military maneuvers and things like that. And that stuff, I don't know, it's like kind of, I don't know if that was perfect, but it's like second nature to me, how to move and do those things.
Right.
Like, okay, you're okay, sit down, next, whatever. So they went through, I don't know how many people. And then I went back to my, roaming the streets of Tokyo, like wondering, oh, okay, well, now what? But I watched some other guys when we were doing the auditions, and they always had their finger on the trigger. Now, I don't know if you remember firearms, you're not supposed to really, don't put your finger on the trigger, basically, unless you're going to use it.
Yeah,
So
then it's important, then it's required.
Yeah.
I know that much.
So I'm watching these guys do the audition, and everybody's got their finger on the trigger because that's what you do, And I'm thinking the only reason I got chosen was because I didn't put my finger on the trigger. And that's my, of course they didn't tell me that or anything, but I got the job because I didn't put my finger on the trigger. So,
right.
Well, we did 4 auditions.
I remember you told me as well, just after the 4th audition, there was that hand job you gave the assistant director.
Well,
back of the building, that helped, right?
Well, yes and no. I didn't finish though. That's
No,
why.
but your finger was certainly on the trigger that day.
Well, at least it wasn't.
We're shooting
gonna
blanks.
Make an Alec Baldwin joke, but I couldn't think of one at this hour. But
Too soon.
Yeah, I guess so.
We're going back 10 years now, so I don't know. Maybe I had a lot of things I don't remember.
Now, Clive, you're bringing up Mr. Brown's portfolio. but I'm absolutely positive that there are some people who recognize me from my television program that I hosted for a few years,
Oh, right.
locally here in Connecticut, which was entitled Geno in the Evening. People would probably recognize me better if I was wearing this. Let me put this on.
What is going on over there?
Gee, well, just the title Geno in the Evening. I already have images. I feel like
Hey,
that's
Now
not what
people
I expected.
recognize me.
Geno in the Evening, I totally expected like a wingback chair and like a smoking jacket and like a pipe.
Ron, I'm a cable access host, not Hugh Hefner.
Just the title, Geno in the Evening.
yeah, when you restart, you could rebrand like that. Now, yeah, but that's a nice look. Is that that's not a Stetson, is it? Or is that a Stetson?
No, it's not.
What is that? What would you call that?
I call it a hat, Clive.
Play.
Zing.
Yes. What is this thing you call hat? Yeah. So yeah, we should actually mention that. Yes, you did host a public access server, because there's bits up on YouTube you can see, and it was quite interesting. And you would have most of your guests, were they like local entrepreneurs and business people, or?
Yeah, it would be like politicians. It would be local personalities, singers, artists, business owners. But every now and then I would entertain or interview the random celebrity guests that I have from my Rolodex. For example, I interviewed Steve the Wild Thing Ray, who was a professional wrestler for the Herb Abrams iteration of the Universal Wrestling Federation. And I also interviewed noted YouTuber Ben Minot, who is the host and producer of the YouTube series, The Oddity Archive. So I've done my fair share of interviewing in the past, and I'd like to get back to doing it. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the studio has been shut down, and I'd love to get back doing it. I just hope that the studio reopens soon.
There you go. You can get Erik on to promote The Last American Vampire, or whatever else he's doing when
Yeah,
that happens.
coming out. Yeah, if you want to know, called Nye. Waiting for the release on that. That should be coming out.
NIGH.
NIGH, yes.
And when I have Erik on the show, he told me that he before the program he said that he played a Van Helsing equivalent. So when he comes to the program, he could bring the steaks, not the wood steaks, the food, because I'll be
I can
hungry.
do that.
Okay, let's just wait for that joke to just settle in.
Hey, they can't all be good. You have to expect that once in a while.
Right. Okay. So there we go. That's everyone up to speed with who we are, and yeah. So we're going to talk a couple of where we'll argue about Ron has a bone to pick with me in terms of shot and set in Connecticut. But I think for the first film, at least, is that okay, Ron? You don't have a problem with this first film being following out?
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't really actually mention where it was, but yeah.
No, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
They don't actually specifically say, but it might as well. It could be.
Yeah, my understanding was that you were going to get lenses like this is definitely Connecticut. Like, would you guys say that the first movie was definitely in Connecticut? Did it have like a Connecticut feel, or was it more like an anywhere USA kind of thing?
Yes, because
okay.
I believe that one of the locations visited in the film, I was looking at it and I'm like, I swear that I've actually been to that location.
Well, I think it was an old Saybrook, if that's correct, or there was some of those places. Like, yeah, this is Connecticut, but it could pass for other, it can pass for any.
I believe they shot some of it in Chester, I believe.
Chester, Hadlin, I think.
Essex, I think a lot of it was filmed.
Oh yeah, Essex. Yep.
Essex, yep.
So
Now,
this is
not a, oh, go ahead.
no, go on.
Did you brought that up? Okay, as I was watching the movie, there's a part with what's it called, the Black Whale Antiques. Where that
That's the
antique
place
guy
where I
lives?
think I was. Yeah.
That place is still around. That
Right,
place is still in business.
Wow.
Right. I think I've actually been to that antique store and I
Yep.
never put two and two together.
I looked it up. I'm like, I wonder if this, because I know they didn't have it in the budget to, do a name change on a storefront.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
looked it up, and that place is still in business now.
Right.
Huh.
And
Well, there are fans of this film, and the film is Let's Scare Jessica to Death from 1971. There are fans of this film who do go to the locations that are in the film.
that house is still standing. It's abandoned, but I think there's somebody who maintains it, I guess. But it's still there because I looked that up 2 nights ago. Still standing, but
You know what would be a fun idea, Eric? If you ever got the opportunity, would be a fun idea for you and I to take a bit of a road trip to visit the various locations in the film and report back with photographs.
maybe we could do that. Let me check my
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah,
Sounds
definitely.
good. We could, we can do a follow-up, put links up.
I'd rather go to the locations for the second movie and take photographs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, they're definitely in Connecticut, no matter what Ron says. But we'll get to that later. Oh,
I mean,
yeah. So,
Ron, have you ever been to Connecticut? How would you know?
yeah.
I'll get there when I get there. Okay, we'll get there at all.
You're already here.
See. No, I'll get to that movie when we get there. So, okay, first let's talk about Jessica
Yes.
and scaring her to death.
Right. Yes, let's do it. So basically, very
Short little story before we get into that.
okay.
When I was in my therapy session, I believe it was last week, and I was telling her, oh, well, I'm going to be reviewing these 2 movies. One of them is called Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and then I remembered my therapist's name is Jessica.
So you scare Jessica almost to death.
And she was like, that's actually not a real movie. This is just a projection of your
Get out of my office.
Okay,
Yes.
how about let me jump in. So it's written and directed by John D. Hancock,
Right.
not to be confused with the John Hancock on the Declaration of Independence, I guess, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How long were you saving that one up for, Ron?
Yeah. I was trumping a bit for that one. And as Norman Jonas, I guess, that was his pseudonym?
Or Ralph Rose.
Froze, yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
And also written by Lee Kalheim and Sheridan Le Fanu. Yeah, like those people.
No.
Okay.
It's not shit. You're thinking the IMDb is confused you there, isn't it? Because it's nominally based on Camilla, right? The Chardonnay story. But
Oh, I see.
he would have been
Oh,
dead.
sorry, on the story Carmilla. That's right. Okay, yes.
I'd be impressed if he'd have written it because he'd have been dead for 100 years.
Right. Yes, and starring Zora Lampert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
As
and
the titular Jessica.
as
You
Jessica.
got to
yeah.
give her props because
She's
here's my position on this. Before we get into the plot, and ladies and gentlemen, we will get into the plot. I've always had a problem with non-mentally ill people portraying mentally ill people on film. Like biggest example for me being Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. I consider it to be what I like to call able face. But I do believe that Zora Lampert did do an exceptional job in this film, and I think she was head and shoulders above the entire cast. She carries this movie, so I got to give her props for that. And it's a shame that she didn't really have that long of a career because she was excellent in this film.
She is very, very good. I didn't know her from anything else, but yeah, she has done some stuff. She's clocked up a few credits over there at the IMDb, and she was later in Exorcist 3, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she also went from this to appearing in advertisements for Goya beans. So
She was a
there's that.
spokesperson, I think, in the early 80s for them. She was
Right,
attractive.
right.
She was attractive. She could probably sell it.
Absolutely.
Or still is attractive.
It'll
I
make
don't
it
know what
Goya for Goya beans.
I don't get the Goya beans joke, but I'm assuming
Goya, get off your ass for Goya beans.
Ah, right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clive's
Come
a
on,
little
Clive.
slow.
Come on, Clive.
Someone out there's
Bring it up.
laughing. Someone out there's laughing.
Hey, the best jokes are the ones you have to explain. Yeah, absolutely.
So carry on, Ron. You were
Okay, so then we also have Barton Heyman playing Duncan, the husband.
He was
And,
starring in The Exorcist, actually, the first one.
the first one,
Oh,
yes.
is it? All right, okay.
And Kevin O'Connor as like Woody, who is like, I guess, their friend who just kind of
He was
like a
my
third-
other favorite guy in this movie,
third
just for
wheeling it.
his look.
Yeah.
and Gretchen Corbett as the girl. So, yeah, the
Right.
girl, which was kind of a giveaway, I guess, right? So like the fact that her credit is the girl, rather
No.
than
Yeah, okay, she's the girl, but then there's also Emily, played by
Mary Claire Costello.
right.
Right. Yeah. So Jessica and her husband and this kind of hanger on a dude, third wheel, I guess, are out. He's bought is it an apple farm or something like that? It's an orchard.
Apple Farm, yep,
Yeah.
Apple Orchard.
And she's, yes, as you mentioned, Geno, she's clearly dealing with some sort of trauma or
Right.
something.
It's not explained, right?
No,
I would say that she's suffering from PTSD because I myself suffer from PTSD, and one of the things associated with PTSD is that you do hear voices in your head, particularly of the voices of your tormentors or your oppressors, and she's definitely getting that throughout the course of this film, and it's not helped at all by the fact that her and her conglomerate are always seen driving around in a hearse with
well,
H.
I think she was actually institutionalized, right? Like she's just
yeah.
released.
She does
right?
have doctors back
6 months.
in their place of origin. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, because she says she's had no freedom for like the last X number of months or whatever it was. So
Right.
It's interesting as well, an element of this film, which I think it wouldn't occur to them now, but I've read some interpretations of the film placing it very much in its kind of fag end of the late 60s, early 70s hippy dippy kind of, like, because these are kind of very hippy dippy people. There's also some people have considered the fact that she might be an acid casualty of some sort, who just kind of damaged her brain, and
That's possible, yeah.
there's elements of that as well that could be in there. It's kind of interesting. Because I don't think that would necessarily jump out at people nowadays, right? People we don't tend to.
Right.
But anyway, she's a troubled young woman. Let's put it that way. So they've decided to take it out to go chill out in the country, I guess. Start afresh
In Connecticut.
which, as we've heard earlier, is a wonderful place to live, and they find a woman squatting in the house, the Mary Claire Costello. So obviously third wheel Kevin O'Connor and her, it seems like they might be a natural fit.
I saw that happening.
Yeah. He made me laugh as well, because there's a little bit of the hello Lothario look about him. So like he's kind of teamed up with them. There's a scene later on in the film where the other random girl is found like running through the woods, and he turns up, he looks really excited, and he says to them like, "What's this?" Like, not even who's she. He's like totally objectified. What's this you found? Can't believe his luck, right?
We came to the right place.
Yeah, I never knew there'd be so much pussy in Connecticut. He was just laughing it up.
Oh, believe me, there is, Clive. There is. You just got to go look for it.
There we go. Player Geno has spoken, and and around all this, I suppose a lot of spooky things, and there's maybe someone in the lake. There might be a woman in the lake, and the locals who are not very friendly have mysterious bandages around them.
Scars on their necks
Yeah.
and things.
Right.
Yeah, nothing concrete. It's all kind of very
Hmm.
loose and ethereal, and something's not quite right. And yeah. So, does this was this a first viewing for everyone, or had anyone seen it before?
First time for me.
First time for me as well.
Okay. So, what did we
And
think?
yourself, Clive?
I had seen it, and I'll get to that because I think this is one of those films that it has developed a bit of a cult following over the years after being forgotten for many, many, many years, and is, I don't know, I think it's a film that really benefits from not knowing anything about it. I think if you expect nothing from this film at all, it kind of works a lot better than maybe having any preconceived notion.
That's exactly how I went into this movie. I didn't, I don't expect much. It was made in what, 71, 70, 71?
Yeah.
It's not going to be, going back to like last summer, I watched Friday the 13th, the original one. And I remember watching that when I was younger, like, oh my God, I watched it this time. There was zero scare in it. You know what I mean? It was just nothing. So I went into this movie like, okay, I know it's a thriller, psychological thriller. Who knows what's going on? But I blanked it out because there's not going to be those special effects, jump scares or whatever. It's going to be something.
There were a few though. There were
a few, yeah, but it wasn't. The movie didn't rely on that. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on Let's Scare Jessica to Death. I actually quite enjoyed this film. I was actually quite impressed by the fact that this film did not have an overabundance. I mean, considering that this was the 70s and, the 70s was primarily known for its gore fests and stuff, I'm quite impressed that this film didn't have an overabundance of not only gore, but nudity as well. I mean, you're talking, again, the 70s and 80s where, horror films just completely relied on that low-hanging fruit in order to keep audiences entertained. No, instead, this is more of a psychological game. And that's what I really enjoyed about this film. That and the cinematography, as well as, yet again, Miss Lampert's compelling performance. Again, I believe that she single-handedly carries this film. And again, it's really a shame that she never really went on to anything else. I mean, she did things like Splendor in the Grass, and I believe she won an Emmy for an appearance in an episode of the old detective series, Kojak. But other than that, she really didn't do much, which is really unfortunate because I think she was a great talent here. And if she had allowed that seed to grow a little bit more, she would have been one of the bigger stars of that time period.
Oh no, agreed. Certainly the film kind of lives or dies on whether you buy into her performance or not, right? And yes, it's extremely well judged.
Although I do think she was a pretty well-respected theater actress.
She was,
right.
Yeah, so I think she just had like another career that we just didn't see. Yeah, so I think she was fine. Yeah, so.
Right.
Something that was a bit problematic for me was some of the ADR work that was done. That was quite obviously ADR work. Like you could tell the scenes that were like natural sound, and you could tell stuff that was like ADR'd later on. I don't know if the whole film was ADR, but there were certain sections of this film where you could clearly tell that this was dubbed, later on.
Yes. However, I would say one of the things that works for me for this film and really gives it its kind of spooky, dreamlike edge is the sound in general and the music. And so for me, the fact that, it kind of depends on the movie, right? If you're going for a very realistic take, when people sound the same, whether they're speaking outdoors or indoors, it can be kind of jarring and kind of ruin the overall feel. But with a film like this, which is so kind of strange and spooky and unreal, and you're not quite sure, that kind of stuff almost enhances it for me. Like the like you said, the ADR and the looping and stuff like that, because it just kind of increases the slight dreamlike kind of feeling, and you're not pretty sure where
and a lot of the music too in this film is quite like that. I mean, again, when I was watching this film, a lot of the music it sounded as if it came straight out of one of those LSD infused, Coke infused Sid and Marty Krofft Saturday morning kid shows. Like a lot of that, like a lot of the music cues to me sounded like they came straight out of the Land of the Lost. And that's not a bad thing, because this really was the era of Moog synthesizer. Notice I said Moog, not Moog, because I know how to pronounce things correctly, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Moog synthesizer. Very good use of
Your
it.
face, ladies and gentlemen.
The beast creature is in your house now, Clive.
Yeah, sounds like it. The beast creatures are. It's. I like it. It's foreshadowing because
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
What did you make of this one, Ron?
Yeah, I thought it was quite. It grew on me. At first, I was kind of like I wasn't sure what to make of it. With I thought the voiceover, I was like, oh, at first it seemed a little overused, and I was kind of like,
Pretentious, maybe.
What's that?
Pretentious, maybe.
Yeah, a little pretentious, a little bit like I didn't think it was really. It didn't add anything for me. But then the more it went along, it sort of it definitely grew on me, and it definitely I kind of appreciated that use a little bit more. And yeah, I thought, and by the time I got to like the final third, I was like well gripped into it, and I was really I was quite involved with it. So yeah, I thought they did a quite well job, despite the fact that there was nothing really particularly new about it, or it wasn't a particularly like innovative picture, but it was done quite well. I thought the atmospheric kind of creepiness was handled quite well.
It is.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and especially there's no answers at the end. Like I do like the movies that you're not really sure. Like, was it all just in her head?
Right.
Like that kind of stuff. I thought it was that they handled it quite well. So.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, there was a particular sequence, I think it was towards the end of the film, where the voices in her head were really starting to get to her. And me being, again, somebody who does suffer from PTSD and other mental ailments, that scene particularly got to me. Like, it just, I don't know, for me, it just, I found myself, it was hard to breathe for me during that sequence. Like, I was shuddering a lot, like, doing a lot of that because, I really felt what she was going through because I've gone through a lot of that myself. So whoever did, like the clinical research in this film, really did their homework because that was really what it's like for people who have PTSD and trauma like that. It really hammers you like that. And it really never goes away. I mean, you try to live a normal life, you try to be a normal human being, but, it really does hammer you. Especially in those moments where you've just experienced something else traumatic or whatever. I mean, they really did a good job at not making Jessica out to be a totally deranged. I mean, a lot of films with characters who have mental illness, they like to play up a little too much on the derangement instead of the heart of the person. And with this film, I feel like they more cater to the heart of Jessica because like in too many times they project mentally ill people as just being these crazy maniacs who deserve to be locked up in padded cells. But in this film, you really feel sorry for this girl. You're really like,
especially the year that it was made. You would think.
She has to deal with her dickhead of a husband, Duncan, who, if he's not yelling at her, he's making love to, Emily, a girl that he just met like 2 days ago, and Woody, who's, ambivalent to the entire thing, and Emily, who is such a, and it's a good thing that there's no mixed company here, but Emily is such a bitch in this film. Like to Jessica and to everybody else,
Really,
she played him. She played him. That
so
was
manipulative.
It's interesting. It's interesting to me. This, on the one hand, we all seem to be very much on the same page of appreciating this film, but I have to admit, some of the characterizations. I mean, her husband was. I thought he was kind of. Quite sympathetic myself.
Yeah.
Clive.
It was Woody I didn't like. Yeah, Woody was kind of like the more lechery guy.
Well, I don't know how a character like Duncan could be sympathetic when there's clearly a scene where he's sitting in a chair after he's just had a fight with his wife, and then Emily comes sashaying into the room and they start kissing and lip locking. You know, I don't really see how. I don't really see that. You know.
No, but other than maybe his infidelity, you said he was always shouting at her, for example. I'm not sure. That didn't come. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering, but he didn't seem to be, you know.
He seemed,
I don't know. There's just something about Duncan I did not like.
right. Well, his character kind of seems streamlined as far as being. I agree with you, Clive. Like he's very nice. Whatever he was doing, trying to help her. The only thing I didn't like about him, really, in general, or you know, what he did, like he just flipped. What was that scene where they were in bed and he's like, you know, I can't do this anymore or whatever. I'm like, wow, that was
Right.
that was a change, like a total change. And I'm like, you know, like with you guys, and I was agreeing with Ron what he was saying about it progressed, and then days later it's still sitting in, and I'm like, I think I'm liking it more. But I think it's the character or the dialogue was probably my only big complaint. I mean, kind of choppy. Like
Right.
one example that just pops up is like the guy goes into the store. He wanted to get something, and the local's like, if we had any, I wouldn't sell it to you. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then it just, they drop it and go to something else. And I'm like, that's very kind of corny, if that's a word, to just say
Right.
that, just to establish what kind of character that is. I thought that could have been better, and just, that's nitpicking though. It's like,
Right. So I did want to ask you actually, Erik, and you know as well about that. So, for instance, the hostile locals angle.
every day, man, that's Connecticut. No.
I found
That's actually you guys, right? That's you. You're doing
Well,
that.
you know, just to wrap up my previous point about Duncan, the thing that I didn't like is how he was yelling at her when you know, they were in bed together prior to when he started lip locking with Emily. You know, I didn't really care for when he was yelling at her, because to me, again, being you know, somebody with PTSD and all that, you know, the last thing you want is to have somebody who you know, because people with PTSD really have a low threshold in general, but when you have somebody that you've given your heart to who's yelling at you and berating you like that in bed,
right.
you know, it's like, you know, here's somebody that I've given my heart to, and now they're traumatizing me, and now they're my oppressor. You know, so that's the one thing I didn't like about Duncan. I mean, I understand, you know, human beings are at their breaking point, but also, you know, if you've married into her, if you've, you know, decided to enter into a love life with a woman, and you know her shortcomings, then you should work within those shortcomings and not lose your cool with her. Because if you do, then she's not going to like you, you know? So that's the other thing. But as far as like the locals are concerned, I remember while I was watching the film earlier today, I said, "Oh, Connecticut hospitality at its finest." You know?
well, I don't think, you know, it's not really like that, of course, but
right.
that they threw that in there, just, I don't know.
Almost as if there were zombies or the Living Dead to
Well, yeah,
like
but it's
a
like
certain degree, like they've been programmed.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like they not stereotypical, like yeah, the stereotypical old grassroots going up local old white man. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's the image you get, and it's like, huh, this is definitely dated because.
But they could also be. I mean, that there are hints that they might have been vampirized.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
agree.
yeah,
Not
like with
when I
not
first
only
saw
the
it,
cuts,
though.
but
Okay.
the scar that's on their neck. Whenever you see that scar on their neck, that usually means that, you know, they're not necessarily on the side of good. So perhaps the scar on their neck is an indication that something has taken hold of them. And you know, you were saying that this was based on that story. I think you said it was Carmilla or something to that effect. If I recall correctly, that was like a story based around vampire lesbianism. And as a matter of fact, the film, I actually just saw this for Halloween. The wonderful the underrated Universal horror film Dracula's Daughter is also based heavily on that. But you know, you only within this film, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, you only get subtle hints of lesbianism between Emily and Jessica. Mostly, the Emily character is seen cavorting with the male characters, which I found interesting for something that's supposed to be based off of a rather homoerotic work.
What were you saying there, Eric? The first time.
Well, first time going back to the locals, first time seeing their character and how they were acting toward the new hippies in town. I mean, that's just stereotypical. I mean, I didn't know, because I never seen the movie, didn't know what it was about. Like, these guys were actual, they were zombified or whatever, or they were they were a little strange as far as and my other complaint that we got listening to you guys, like, what was the end game? Like, what's her name? Emily? Like, what was the plan? What was her plan? You know
well,
what I mean?
here's the other thing about that is kind of unclear in the film is, there's also, when they're up in the attic, they find this photo in this beautiful silver frame of this family, the Bishop family, and there's a girl in there who's wearing a wedding dress, and she looks quite a lot like Emily. Right. And I don't know if it's ever made clear that Emily is this vampiric person, if she's actually this Abigail Bishop that, is buried in this grave. It's like, I seem to think that she is that Abigail Bishop character, and she's just passing herself off as mortal Emily,
Well, that's what I like about it, because, I mean,
if you're ambiguous, yes.
Yes, if you were just going to tell the story of, the girl who drowned in the lake and then she came back or whatever, it would be so kind of bog standard, right? But I like.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But the fact that they went around and I think it's not in the case of this film, I don't think it is like a cack-handed narrative that fans of the film are reading too much into it and kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt. I think they deliberately went that route from the beginning. I think they deliberately kind of, blurred the edges and everything to make it effective in that way, because that's kind of how the way it would. And getting back to what I was saying earlier about opinions of this film. So the first time I saw this film, I didn't know what to expect, and it really had a profound effect on me. I thought, wow, what a creepy ass film. And just this, and the simplest things, like just seeing the first time you see a female figure just walking underwater or just standing there, that was a real
yes.
creepy image for me. And it's a very easy thing to get into a certain extent. Someone just goes and stands in the water.
Right. Now getting back to the ambiguity of is this the Abigail Bishop character or not? Again, another film based on the criminal, getting back to Dracula's daughter. Very interesting, like little comparison here with the main character of that film being Countess Maria Zaleska. I was reading through a thread on the Classic Horror Film Board, and there were a lot of people who didn't know, is she supposed to be a vampire, or is she just this deranged woman who's passing herself off as Dracula's daughter? Very interesting how these two films are quite similar to a certain degree, and they both are sourced from some of the same source material.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that Dracula's Daughter, which was remade in the 90s as a film called Nadia, and Nadia has slight similarities, overlaps with Let's Get Jessica to Death as well. That very kind of sublime, and just to bring it back, my kind of final word on this myself is. So that the less you expect, I think the better that works. I think this time I was going in with the point of view, I remember Let's Scare Jessica to Death being really, really good and really creepy and really scary. And I think if you come into it with that weight, it's not necessarily going to work in the same way, right?
No, I agree.
Right. I mean, I was very much with Ron on this when the film starts, after the Gulf Western Paramount logo. I was very much with Ron in that, you see, the beginning of Jessica just sitting in the boat, in the narration, I was going to, is this going to be another one of those pretentious 70s horror films that thinks it's better than it is? But then as I go through the film, I'm like, no, there's actually some good characterization here, and there's some solid storytelling. And I believe that the copy of the film that I have, has an audio commentary track included, and I'm very much looking forward to going back and listening to that, because I would like to, get an idea of what the filmmakers, what their intentions were with this. So yeah, I consider this to be one of the most underrated horror films of the 1970s, if not of all time. It's a really underrated gem that I really think that you should check out if you're at all a fan of, old dark house films, especially from this time period. Basically, being fish out of water stories, with these characters being fish out of waters, and also psychological thrillers. I really think that this is an underrated gem that, if you're at all a fan of those genres, you should definitely check this one out. It's a really good one. I enjoy it.
Question for all of you. Do you think this movie could be remade today to have the same effect?
Now, here's the thing. I thought this was remade. Wasn't there like a remake of this a few years ago? Like, I remember hearing the title "Let's Scare Jessica to Death," and I seem to remember, like, back in like the early 2010s or something, there might have been like a remake.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm just having a
Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I could have sworn that there was a remake of this.
Well, you might be ahead of your time there. You might be right. According to the IMDb, it's in development.
Huh, okay.
Who knows? Maybe, are you in it, Erik? Are you Jessica in the new?
No, he's Woody. He's Woody.
Oh, yeah.
I'll
He
be
has a Woody.
You need to.
And Ron will be Duncan.
no, if anything, I'll be one of those guys at the drugstore sitting on the rocking chair with the VF. Well, what's funny in that movie, like one of the old guys, old codger, he was wearing like a VFW jacket.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
VFW 511. I am a member of VFW 511.
Oh wow! Oh, okay, interesting.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Brilliant.
Is that a military?
Yeah, it's a military
Veterans of foreign wars.
So I'm looking at his jacket, like 511. Oh, what?
I'm guessing he must have been WW2.
I'm sure at that time, yeah, because he was old. He looked older.
He'd have been a bit old to just come back from Nam, right? I don't know.
All those guys are dead now.
Yeah. If any of you guys are not dead, write in and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. What do you really think of Damn Hippies? And
there's one more thing about this movie that I wanted to mention that I don't know, but I thought that I thought there was one thing that kind of struck me was the disconnect between the kind of exploitation title of this movie and the feel of the actual movie. I didn't think they really fit.
Yeah.
I thought I was, because when you go in watching a movie from the 70s called Let's Scare Jessica to Death, you really are expecting really like a gory,
like a grindhouse type,
like a grindhouse. Yeah. And it really wasn't. I really think that the title is fun, but I think it does this movie a disservice. I think a little bit,
right? Because it sort of belies the more intelligent story that it's trying to tell. I agree with you there, but it is but I will say it is an eye-catching title and a memorable one.
It is. Yeah.
And originally, apparently, just to be called Jessica, and then who the fuck's gonna go see that? But there's a disconnect. Yeah, you're quite right. One quick question before we move on to the second part of our. I assume we.
Oh, believe me, take your time, Clive. Take your time moving on to the next film. Take your time.
I believe we're all we're all in agreement there. We enjoyed Let's Get Jessica to Death. I was curious because the director John Hancock, who was the original director of Jaws 2 before he got kicked off it.
Which apparently he got because of this movie, because of the woman under the water. That apparently they thought he can do water scenes very well. So let's give him the.
Well, he's one of those guys as well. He seems to have been on the trajectory, like he'd have done Let's Get Jessica to Death, and people are, even though it wasn't a big hit or anything, but people were kind of, impressed. And then his career seemed to have stalled a little bit. But the other kind of big film he made, which I've never seen, but has a really good reputation. I was wondering if any of you guys had ever seen the baseball film Bang the Drum Slowly.
No, I have not.
I have not, but I looked up his credentials, and he had a couple, not bad movies, I guess, but I've never seen his movies except for Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Right. He actually directed one of my favorite movies of all time, Prancer. The Christmas movie about the reindeer. That's a joke. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone out there didn't get that, Ron just made a joke. Yeah.
And as Ron himself said
And those are
earlier,
the best jokes are the ones that you have to
Right.
explain.
It was,
Right, so-
it was
Hey, Ron,
quite
I laugh
funny.
at him, man.
I'm laughing on the inside. Yes, so let's get it together. It's definitely worth a look at it, but it's, like I said, it's slightly strange. It's one of those films that, in a way, is a victim of its own cult success in a way, because coming into it with, you want to tell people, oh, you want to see Lester Scared Just Good Death, that's great. But the very act of doing that almost sets them up to not
Yes.
quite enjoy it as much.
Yes, you worded so much better. It's like it's a movie where you have to take it upon yourself to watch it. You can't be doing groups,
No.
with the exception of us, and talking about you want to see a movie and this.
Yeah.
Because I made the mistake before I saw it when you gave me the link to watch it. I told my friend about it because his daughter's name is Jessica, and he's like, "Oh, I have something to do for Halloween." And then his reply to me after he did watch it was, I want my money back. I think it's what he said. But he's not somebody that appreciates film. He has a different profession or something like that. But like, I'm at the stage now where I watch movies, I'm looking at the angling, the lighting, the everything but like the actual movie itself. Then that's what I was doing with this one. I'm like, wow, I do like that. That's a little too long. The pacing needs to be sped up here and things like that. I thought it done. In general, I like the movie, but it's like you can't tell regular Joe on the street, like, hey, you want to see a scary movie? Check this out. Because this is
an acquired taste.
Yes.
Also, like we said, it's a film to go in blind. So certainly, whatever you do, don't watch some fucking YouTube video with 4 losers talking about it before watching it. That's for sure. Yes. So from the sublime to the ridiculous, and
not just ridiculous, from the sublime to the utter shit pile.
Well. Yeah.
Hey, Clive.
I can't wait to find out what Geno thinks, because I have no idea.
How about we do like a reverse engineering of this?
Okay.
Let's talk about the good qualities of the title, if you will.
Right.
Oh, the title is brilliant. I love the title.
Yeah.
Great title. Great poster art.
Attack of the Beast Creatures. 1983, although it didn't get released anywhere until 85. So
85, yeah.
had none of you seen this?
And it should have stayed that way.
I'm sensing a general, I call me a slight dislike for this film, Geno.
Okay. You want to know I'm
No,
going.
hang on.
Okay.
We'll get there. Let's lay the ground work a little bit here. So, because first of all, I believe Ron wants to complain a little bit about the inclusion of this film from it.
And anything Ron has to say, by default, I agree with, considering my opinion on the film.
Well, no, it's not about the quality of the film. That's notwithstanding. Again, going on with our what did you call them? Not guidelines.
Right.
Guidelines is that the idea is that we're picking movies that are both shot and set in the state, right? And so maybe this was shot in Connecticut, but it's quite clearly not set in Connecticut, because it states twice that it's on a desert island in the middle of the, what does it say, somewhere in the North Atlantic. Somewhere in the North Atlantic, right? So that means it is specifically not Connecticut.
Don't put in words into the mouth. They don't say in the middle of anything.
No, they said somewhere in the North Atlantic.
And the
Twice.
estuary that runs along the coast of Connecticut is in the North Atlantic, technically. That sound, whatever it's called, that you're on.
The Long Island Sound.
Yeah.
So I kept expecting maybe there was going to be like a twist ending, where like at the end they were going to like running from the creatures, and then suddenly they come across a sign and they were in Hartford the whole time or something. You know what I mean? Like I thought that would have been like the great. Oh, hey, that would have been like a good M. Night Shyamalan like ending on it.
Oh, they should have had those Zuni dolls running through town past those old guys going.
It was the old guys. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That would have been great.
But yeah,
but the fact is, I mean, even if it maybe is on one of those islands that off the coast of Connecticut, the idea is that it's not supposed to be there, right? So,
could be.
But it's supposed to be where the guidelines states that you created that it should be specifically set there. So.
Well, this is my thing with this is, yes.
You know what, Ron? You know what this really is? You know what this really is? This is just another one of Clive's I Hate You Man specials, even though it's not on Valentine's Day. And this time he hates all of us.
Yeah.
Well, the guidelines are there, right, as guidelines. And because the thing is, if you think about it, even though the film we started this project with, Pet Samatahari, even though that clearly fits the guidelines exactly, that's far less what this is about than this film, I think. I think this is the kind of film I thought we'd be talking about. Both this and Let's Get Jessica to Death, but in different ways.
I kind of wish that the second film we watched was Pet Sematary, because at least we'd get Fred Gwynn.
Anyway, can't wait to see what Geno thinks of this one, because I have no idea. So yeah, somewhere in the North Atlantic, 1920, and there's a shipwreck, a super low budget film, so obviously we don't see a shipwreck, you just see some people in a...
Well, wait a minute, Clive.
In a rowboat, not in...
Wait a minute, Clive. I have to say this. In this film's defense, and this is probably going to be the only time I'm going to come to this film's defense tonight, is you do see for a brief second a shot of a capsized boat.
Oh, this is true. This is true. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
However, none of the people in this film look even remotely from the 1920s. They look like your cousin Harry that just came out of the garage.
They look like they were from East Haven.
What do you mean?
right.
Bit of local humor there.
Yeah.
Well, they were dressing. The women, at least, were wearing like flapper dresses and stuff. All right. I mean, there was an attempt at a certain amount of period detail.
And they had like the one with the curls on the top of her head and stuff, right?
Yeah. But yeah,
well,
so
I think this film is set in Connecticut, because I think Ron's wrong there, because a lot of the people look like they probably did come from Waterbury.
Yeah.
Well, at least they maybe set out from Connecticut. Maybe so.
I agree with that. I think they're all friends of the producer or something, like, hey, we need people.
I think a lot of them were producers, actually, because you kept seeing the same name in the credits like 50 times.
I will say this though. I mean, for something like that, with that amount of people and coordinating that, yeah, kudos to that. But it's like, of course, we know really the movie, it sucked. Let's call it what it is. It sucked. But to get people to committed with these puppets jumping out of everywhere and fake blood and things like that.
Let me just say this, and this will probably be the quote of the day. This movie was the bastard offspring of Chester Norval Turner and Don Dohler, but without the heart of either director.
Okay, I'm not sure if it stands up.
Yeah, I don't know who any of those people are. So
I don't. Oh, nobody knows who Chester. Okay, let me give some background. Chester Norval Turner made a movie called. He made a couple of really shitty direct-to-video movies called. One of them was called Tales from the Quadhead Zone, and the other one was called Black Devil Doll from Hell.
Which we will be getting. We will be getting to on this project, I believe, because when we get to Detroit, I think are the Detroit area films. I think.
Right.
So we'll put that on the back burner for them, because maybe we can get you back on. We can talk Chester Norval Turner,
and like the little dolls who are quite clearly dolls. I mean, come on. In this movie, just like they came straight out of a Chester Norval Turner movie, like the same, like cheap, like low budget, like look, like oh my goodness. I mean. Anybody watching this, even the stupidest, dimmest person in the room who just came out of the outhouse would know that those were dolls. And the other reference that I made there to Don Dohler was basically a director who worked in the Baltimore, Maryland area. Again, who made a lot of good horror movies like Galaxy Invader, Night Beast, Fiend, Alien Factor.
We might be going to Maryland next. I'm not sure, actually. That might be next.
Don Dohler would look. I bet if Don Dohler watched this movie, he laughed his head off.
Well, it was like this movie was written by a 13-year-old, you know, that it was,
Right.
I mean, or a 12-year-old, which, okay, but how do they get this out? How do they get this past? Isn't there like gates you got to go through to get this stuff?
Right. I mean, there's
out
so
there
many
to be
other more worthy projects there's so many other worthy projects I would assume back then that just never got greenlit. But yet this was the one that, okay, got the money. This was the one that got into like your Hollywood videos, your Blockbusters and your local mom and pop stores. This,
I like this film.
That's
Oh.
because you're a deranged maniac, Clive. And honestly, me watching this movie, it made me want to actually go to get a ticket to Japan, look you up, and kick you so far up the ass that your tongue would say Reebok.
Now, Clive, you like this movie because it went full circle of
Well, what I kind of like, so
from real bad all the way to real bad.
Kind of. I mean, it's
there is no good in this movie at all. Like, I do not know what you would enjoy this for.
So these shipwreck survivors, just fill people in. Just
none of which are likable characters, by the way.
Get attacked by a bunch of. If anyone remembers the TV movie Trilogy of Terror,
I've heard of it
with Karen Black. It was an anthology film, and there's the most famous part of the film is this part with Karen Black being terrorized by what they call a Zuni doll. It's like a little wooden kind of African doll thing with long hair, and it chases her around the apartment, and it's on the cusp of scary stroke ridiculous. It's kind of in that territory, and I don't know if these are like they must have been inspired by these Zuni dolls, right? But there's fucking loads of them. There's dozens of the fucking things.
I mean, that's the one thing that I will say. You know, I hated, absolutely loathed this pile of horse manure. This, you know, there is a term that me and my friend Ralph Solentano use, and that term is leader. And that refers to like what you see at the beginning of film when you load it up on your projector. And this is the film, and this is the movie that you would use as leader to load up the film that you actually want to see.
Get off the fence, you know. Tell us how you really feel about it.
But I will say, I would like to own one of the dolls from this movie just to say I have this. You know, I will say that they looked somewhat cool, somewhat.
Well, this is my thing, right?
I don't want to give this movie any credit because it was a steaming pile.
They're patently ridiculous, right? Because and they're thrown around like then they're supposed to drop from trees and stuff. Just throwing these.
You know what my favorite part of that was? My favorite part of that was when one of them literally jumped down from a tree and landed on one of the girl's shoulders, and she looked so nonplussed. And then a couple seconds later, she's like, "Ah!"
Yeah, it crept up, wouldn't it? See? So, but
no,
what I like
that's
about it is
what you call delayed reaction, dude.
No. It's
dude,
nuanced acting.
Look, dude. Okay, let me tell you this. As far as like on your other show, I'm gonna break canon here. You guys also host a show called Magic Morningwood. Okay, I will say for your sake, Clive, Bad Pussy was an intriguing, fun watch just for the inane dialogue. This, however, is indefensible. This, like, you want to know something? This is the type of movie that has like no name stars, no name talent, no name anything that you would literally see on one of these shitty 50 movie pack from Mill Creek. This is literally that type of movie.
Unfortunately,
I'm surprised that they never decided to put that on one.
It's not available on any of those packs, which is a bit of a shame. It's actually kind of quite hard to come by.
No, I'm glad it's not on any of these packs because then I'd have to burn them because that movie would be on it. Like, no, I do not want that movie in my collection.
So do you
I'm getting you for Christmas.
I'm gonna delete that movie as soon as we're done with this because I never want to see that steaming shit pile ever again.
You should go around. You should go around Geno's house, Erik, and put all these dolls out in front of his house, his garden, and just freak him out.
Since Erik lives in New Britain, I could find where he lives and you know,
return the favor.
So anyway,
the
thing about these dolls is though, the Zuni dolls, as ridiculous as they are, and as I especially like it when they run. Someone's actually doing the arms thing. They actually gone to the trouble of doing that, which is this skeletal. But they are an unrelenting menace, right? That's what I like about them. Is it takes a little while to introduce them, and they find other things like rivers of acid and stuff like that, which is kind of quite cool gore moment when someone washes their face in the river and they're suddenly just
melting.
I like that. The makeup was done pretty well on that.
But as soon as the dolls are introduced, they're like, there's no respite from these dolls, right? They're just and everything they're jumping from trees and go.
Sorry, Clive. One more time. What do they do?
Actually, I don't know. Actually, do they do that? In my imagination, I'm remembering they make it. Yeah.
It just reminded me of like land piranhas or something,
But yeah, so these Zuni dolls are just
they run like Susan Anton does in Golden Girl.
Unrelenting terror being a strong word. But what I like about it is
beast creatures.
Yes, beast creatures. It's that mix of that's making me laugh, but at the same time, if I was in this situation, I'm not quite sure, if I would get away, if I'd be one of the survivors, because they are.
Dude, if you were literally in that situation, you know what you would do? You would grab one of these fucking dolls, you would crack its head, and then you would just move about your day, bro. Like literally, these look like the bastard offspring of like Barbie. And remember those brats from years ago? It literally looks like a demonic version of a brat doll. Like, come on, bro, you're gonna be scared of that.
I don't know.
I've never had a red doll run at me with teeth, though. I mean, I don't know how I would react.
And loads of them, doesn't.
I mean,
someone worked
bro,
overtime.
You have a weapon, bro. You have and can we just discuss some other stupidity within this film? Okay, from the way that these characters are dressed. I can assume that they're coming from a cruise ship that capsized, okay? And on that cruise ship, they would have like a full manned crew, okay? None of these characters, when they, abandoned ship and got in the lifeboats and whatever, none of these characters thought to bring with them weapons of any kind, like a gun or anything, because it's like they have no weapons to defend themselves on this island. None.
They do mention that they've drifted off from a larger flotilla of rescue ships, right?
Yes.
Correctly. They say
but you would think one of them would have like a handgun at least with them to defend themselves, because it's like you don't know where they're going. They come on this island or whatever. Like you would think that at least one of them would have like a gun belt.
How many guns are on a cruise ship?
Yeah, I don't know if they even have. If the ship is sinking, I'm gonna get off, and I don't have time to go get a gun. I don't.
Yeah.
Gun is like not on my high list. I want to get on the boat.
You prepare for anything. I just think that these characters are so underprepared. Like, I'm sorry, if you're going to be in that situation and you're gonna wind up capsized on an island like that.
I don't think it was a plan. I don't think it was planned.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to.
Well, I still
it was
think
a 3-hour tour.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Ron, what did you make of Attack of the Beast?
To be honest, Clive, I agree with you. I actually kind of like this movie. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I have goodwill for this movie. I mean, of course, it's not a good movie. I mean, it's by no stretch of the imagination. I mean, the acting is terrible, the script is terrible, whatever. But I thought it was really fun. I always thought that if I ever had like $10,000 and I wanted to make a movie, this is probably the movie I'd make. You know what I mean? Like, this is exactly what.
Literally, if you had $10,000, Ron, if you had $10,000 and you wanted to make a movie like this, I would say, Ron, just save your money and put it in your college fund. That would be a lot better.
I also really like puppets, so I thought that I was really appreciative of the puppeteering.
Dude, if you like puppets, watch Howdy Doody. Okay, like come on, there's no defending this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at first I was like, what are these things supposed to be? I mean, are they supposed to? At first, I'm like, are they supposed to be like animals? But then, are they supposed to be like pygmies, or are they supposed to be actual like dolls come to life? And then I realized. They're beast creatures, of course, right? Yeah, so I mean, the answer is they're beast creatures.
That's the thing. That's the other thing that interests me about it is that fact that because it's on that weird line between ridiculous and is the fact that, you know what? they could just be puppets, and that's it.
Yeah, that's right. It could. I was like, is this supposed to be like a Chucky, like, the dolls come to life thing? Now maybe it could be that. But then they actually went, and because they have legs, right? Like they walk on they're bipedal, right? So I mean, they're supposed to be humanoid, and then they added in that really like just random out of the blue. They're worshiping at that idol, that scene, right?
No,
That was my favorite. I was like, that comes
else
out of blue.
stupid.
Then that comes out of left field. All of a sudden, now they have like a whole religion too. It was like, hey, I mean, like I'm sold, right? So
all right. I need to bring us back and be the voice of reason here. Another stupid thing in this movie is like there's a scene where they're walking by like this rock formation or something, and they hear the beast creatures like screech, and they sound like low rent slee stacks. And all the creatures like, ooh, what's that sound? I've never heard that before. What is that? A flock of bees? And I'm like, bro, you've literally been hearing the same sound throughout the whole damn movie.
That was a little strange.
I mean, the script doesn't make sense. And of course, I mean, you can't really judge it based on how well it's written. It was just like,
well, I don't know. Maybe it's because I was
coming
off the masterpiece that was Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and I was coming off of something that was actually a film, something that actually told a coherent story, had something resembling acting.
I had fun programming this just because I knew the whiplash you would all get from going from.
I commend you for this, and I also hate you for it, but I commend you for it at the same time.
And also the actors. I mean, most of them are not very good. I mean, you give them dialogue, and of course the dialogue so when and they don't know how to deliver dialogue, but they all super sold the screaming and you just they put a doll attached to their shirt. Okay, now this doll's biting you, and they're like, hello, let's go over there.
Yeah, that's true. They really got to town on it.
The acting level in this film. There was one laugh out loud moment for me, and that was earlier on in the film, where one of the characters, I think it was one of the crew members, looked straight at the Morgan character, who's like the asshole of the movie. Apparently, like nobody can stand Morgan, even though he's like the voice of reason in this film. He's like, fuck all of you, fuck this and everything. And he's like, dude, I'm with you, Morgan. And one of the guys turns around and he's like, shut up, Morgan. Reb Russell, the former football player turned low rent poverty row cowboy star, could act circles around these people. I'm serious.
Hey, Eric, did you enjoy this film?
Did I enjoy it? No.
Thank you, Eric. See,
No.
me and Eric, ironically enough, the two people who are actually from Connecticut,
so I think that's the point. Is I think you guys are just it just makes you feel bad about where you're from. So I think it hits too close to home.
Like I hate
you're ashamed.
But you want to know what saves it? You want to know what saves it for me?
It's a point of shame for you, right?
Yeah, you never cleared up that island off the coast with those killer dolls and acid rivers on.
They're still there.
They're talking about COP26 right now as we speak.
I think, as far as the plot, believe it or not, if Steven Spielberg made this movie, the plot's okay.
Didn't he?
The plot's okay.
I thought it was him and received him.
Yeah, no. I think what just shot it down was the acting, the delivery, the dialogue, the chemistry was fucking zero.
Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah.
Oh, let's leave this injured guy. What was it? It killed me.
Ron, you are an actor. Well, you seriously are going to defend this movie?
No. As I said, the acting is terrible. The writing is terrible. I mean, as I said, it's a terrible movie. But I had fun with it. It made me laugh. It was like I wasn't taking it for I wasn't expecting like a masterpiece. It was called Attack of the Beast Creatures, for God's sake. I mean, I knew what I was getting when I started it.
I'm going to give you homework, and hopefully the next town that you go with Clive on the Septic Shock road trip will be Baltimore, Maryland, because you need to see a Don Dohler film so that you could truly see how bottom of the barrel this was. Because seeing a Don Dohler film, I mean, he actually had heart. You know, he cared about making movies. He wasn't out there to make a quick buck like this guy probably was. He actually cared about movies. The special effects in his movies, well, yes, low budget, also had a tremendous amount of charm and heart to them. You know, the actors actually cared about the project, even if they hammed it up. You know, you need to see.
It really reminded me of like
a
a community theater production. Like I've seen actors like this in plays that I've been in plays with actors like this, that, like it's, oh, hey, you kind of look like, hey, you're available, you want to do this movie for me? Okay, cool, yeah, sure, I'll go do it. And they've no acting experience, they're just doing it as a favor, and yeah, most of it was terrible. I mean, yeah, but it was, I don't know, I wasn't expecting much, so I just had fun with the puppets. So,
all right, let me catch you on that though, Ron, because you say community theater. A lot of the actors look like they came from community theater. Okay, El Paso, Texas, 1966, Manos, The Hands of Fate. A lot of the actors in that came from community theater, and I will say this: both John Reynolds, who played Torgo, and Tom Neiman, who played the Master, could act circles around these people.
Well, there are different levels of community theater, of course.
Old water for me, at least.
Well, I don't know if you guys heard, those people were not actors in that movie.
No, they were not actors. But as I was saying, they're like the person that decides to join a community theater group for the first time just to try it out. You know what I mean?
But the dolls were professionals.
Oh yeah, they were quite well.
Yeah.
But the fact is, that's what I mean, is they were terrible at the line delivery, but they sold the fact that they were being eaten. Like I bought it, that they were being, so.
I will say that they did that. I think they actually oversold it, but I will say that. I mean, Ron is right. I mean, these actors, like, when the chips are down and they're being attacked by these ridiculous monsters, or excuse me, beast creatures.
Beast creatures.
When they're being
not
attacked by
beasts.
these, when they're being attacked by these dolls. Oh, I mean, beast creatures. They are, they are selling it quite well. Like, I think that they do that okay. It was everything around that is horrible.
It was almost as if the director auditioned them and said, "Can you scream?" And they screamed. They're like, "Okay, you got the part," but never actually auditioned if they could read a line or not, right? So, which is fine,
I would enjoy this movie, like, say, for example, if, I don't know if anybody drinks alcohol in this group, but like hang out. Hey, what are you doing Friday? Hey, let's watch Beast Creatures 2, man. I got a keg of beer or whatever.
Right.
Let's just hang out.
Yeah,
I would enjoy that. I would enjoy
this is one of those movies that I think would, if you were watching this at a party with a bunch of friends, all taking the piss out of it, I think this would be a blast.
That's
right.
great.
Now, and so so it's one of those kind of movies, So
right now, I am not a guy who enjoys Mystery Science Theater 3000 or riff tracks. I'm not a fan of people who essentially get paid to ridicule other people's art. But here's the caveat. This movie deserves riff tracks. And I would wholeheartedly sit through this movie again if you had Mike Nelson and Frank Conniff and the other fella doing the commentary over this.
Ironically, I want part 2.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that jumped out at me as well, which I thought was kind of amused me, was everything else is entirely impoverished about this film, right? But coming as it does 1983, I'm guessing the guy who composed the score had been to see Blade Runner in the theater a few times, and he thought he was Vangelis, right? Like the synth score on this thing is like, wow, he really went for it.
You picked that up too, didn't you? You picked it, I'm like, all right, that's what I said. I just came out in the mid '80s, so yeah, they're doing that. Okay,
real Vangelis vibe.
Yeah, like, okay, I see where this is. But yeah, it's so bad that I want to see another one.
Well,
yeah, I do. That's what's weird about it.
I was thinking, Eric, you're in a good position there. I mean, see if you can find these old timers. If they might still be around.
Well, I was pinpointing the geography and the geology, anyways, and it looked like it was right off the coast.
Morgan's probably gone.
Oh yeah, he's probably
Why, he's lost his leg to the beast creatures, and
He never knew what hit him. Did anybody pick that up? He never knew what hit him,
Yeah,
and he was still alive. I was like, well, are you
yes,
kidding
he
me,
did.
dude?
Yeah. I remember that was a good line. You never knew what hit
Oh,
him. Like that made me laugh. I was like, that's funny.
it's a
Of
fun,
course he did.
fun one. So even though you said you didn't like it, Eric, you did seem to have enjoyed it.
Well, the movie in general, no. As far as, like you said, it was like a plethora of just ugh. But
It was
You
a
know,
slog
they-
to get through.
you bring up, then you look at the other side, like, yeah, if you're with friends watching it, or to get that, comedic, it's not a comedy, but you look at it as one, and then I can watch it and laugh in a different.
What would help this movie is if you don't go into it expecting a straight-laced horror film. If you actually watch it as from the perspective of it being a horror parody, it could probably work better that way.
I would agree. Because
Although
right
I
off,
don't think I'd want to see. I don't think I'd want to see them being tongue in cheek about it, though. I think.
Yeah, I think the unintentional comedy is much better than intentional
oh
comedy.
yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So there we go. You need to get it together and Beast Creatures 2 or remake. Yeah.
No, there doesn't need to be any more of these, Clive. You want to know what they should do? Okay, does anybody remember the whole thing of when they buried all the Atari ET cartridges somewhere in New Mexico?
Oh yes.
They need to dig all of those up, put them in like the video game Hall of Fame, because that game is much better than this movie. And in turn, for an exchange, collect all the VHS tapes of this movie ever put out, foreign or otherwise, and bury them like about 30 feet below the earth, so that they will never be resurrected again.
Hey, Clive, they got to make the movie, but they got to rename it like something, I don't know, the Creature Beast Attacks.
Do you think?
I don't know. Would people get that it's a remake or a sequel if they just flip the words around and it was done by a 14-year-old, not a 13-year-old?
Call it Shit Dolls 2.
I mean, because
It has a ring to it.
I do want to know what happens to these. And what was that thing they were worshiping up on the mountain there? And
Yes, I want to know that.
That was such a throwaway. That was such a throwaway. Like, what is that? Like, they're all standing up there, and there's only probably about maybe 10 of the dolls up there. But then then one of the women is like, oh, there must be hundreds of them.
Of course. Well, left that image of, like, I don't know if you remember the movie The Time Machine, where those air raid siren Sphinx things are like.
Right.
Where that's even talking, it's still in my head because you don't know where they came from, who developed. I want to know where that thing came from.
I want the mythology behind the beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's too much mystery. I want to, let's tie it in a little bit. Bring it in closer.
Oh no, the mystery is the best part. I mean, just
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's. Yeah,
it's open so you can write Beast Creatures fan fiction till the cows come home, right?
You don't. I don't want a prequel to the Beast Creatures.
Clive, since you love this movie so much, and you put this movie on such a pedestal, fuck future editions of Spinefinder. Why don't you actually write the Beast Creatures book? If you're so in love with this movie.
That would be cool, though. I mean, I think he's onto something.
A Beast Creatures book.
A Beast Creatures book, or whatever happened to Tony or whatever his name is, and the girl, they got away, right?
Yeah. Like, write the continuation of that if you're so inclined.
Or not now, but say 10 years after they escaped that island. Did they report this to the
authorities? Because they don't even know where it is. It's somewhere in the North Atlantic, right? It's definitely not in with Connecticut.
It's not off of Stratford there in Connecticut.
Yeah. So anyway,
yes.
And can I just say how weird it is that, like, Upper Snooty Fairfield had anything to do with this movie? Like,
that's right, yeah.
Is it
what a shock that was for me to see that at the end of this movie. Oh, Fairfield County, one of the snootiest places in Connecticut, had something to do with a movie as gutter trash as this. How amazing is that?
Do you think, like, in that area when they have local elections, do you think like the opposite, they bring up this, and when this person under their administration, beast creatures got made, do not re-elect Dewey McCrack or whatever, because we'll
That's
get
funny.
beast creatures too.
Hate that base.
Don't vote for this guy. He greenlit Attack of the Beast Creatures, and you
Oh
all
my
remember
God.
that hunk of junk.
And talking about theater, the director, I guess, right after he did this movie, he went back into theater or theater acting because apparently this this wasn't for him. I don't know.
Oh, it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't. If that was his reasoning, I'll agree with him.
I don't know 100%, but it was like, it's just a mystery. Like, it's like like anybody can make a movie, you know what I mean? And throw it out there where it does.
Well, here's the other thing that I think would be lost on a lot of our younger viewers would be, this was the 1980s. The VCR was still a relatively new thing. And of course, all the companies out there said, hey, people are going to need stuff to put into these VCRs. So everybody with a camera came out of their closet and filmed